There we go. So, you doing well, huh?
I'm doing great.
Oh, that's good. So I
Yeah, the
thought,
holiday.
huh?
I was like, oh yes, the holidays are always a great time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw a few of your videos. I noticed you mostly talk about lore, huh?
Yeah, God of War lore and just in general, I'm a lore nerd more or less.
Yeah, I noticed the synthetic man was like your first type of video.
Yeah, for me, I've followed sort of the media criticism sphere, things like EFAP and whatnot, for a good long while, things like that. But I never really delved into it because to do that is I worry about going into sort of like drama and sort of the drama spheres of YouTube.
Hmm.
And walking down the path of media criticism and avoiding that one is one that's very hard to walk down.
Ah, I see. That's interesting. Yeah, I know how it is being in that type of drama. It's interesting. It's actually I find it more enjoyable sometimes.
The thrill of it is definitely very fun. I got
Yeah.
into a drama in the God of War community a bit time ago, and it's definitely quite the thrill.
Oh yeah, I bet. So I thought a good way to do this is like first I thought maybe we should get like a good understanding of what kind of games we enjoy, you know? So I'm
Mhm.
curious, what's your three favorite games and why?
For my three favorite games, honestly, first game is a little game called Divinity 2 Original Sin. Barely
Oh, I know
anyone
that
knows
one.
it. Ah, that's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
it's a
friend
very
yeah, my friend tried to get me into that game. I played a little bit of it. I was like, "Oh, yeah, I can see the appeal."
yeah, just pretty much a very it's like it's what's called an isometric RPG. It's
Mhm.
basically as close as D&D as you can get, more or less, on like console and whatnot. Um, really, my top three games would be Divinity. Uh, for second, definitely Dark Souls one.
Hmm.
And then for third, probably Kingdom Hearts 2. That's just a game of my childhood.
Ah, I see. Oh, interesting. One thing I know we're gonna agree on is isometric RPGs already.
That's good to
Because
hear.
yeah, because my three favorite games, my first one is Fallout 2. I fucking love Fallout 2. That
Amazing game.
game, I love it. Fucking such a good game. Second one, Doom Eternal. I don't know if that's obvious for my channel, but I love that game.
It is.
Yeah. And Fallout New Vegas is my third. I love my Fallout. Which I think is going to be really interesting for the conversation we're going to have. Because
Yeah.
I don't know your stance, but do you I read your comment saying that like the gameplay is better in Elden Ring, and I was curious, what do you think about the gameplay of God of War? Like well, actually, let me make that clear first. I haven't played Ragnarok. I've only played God of War 2018, and I played it for 11 hours, just to let you know. So I'm just kind of curious. What do you like about? Well, do you consider it good gameplay?
Yeah, so with God of War, just to sort of preface with how I played it, before I even played Ragnarok, I played the game, the 2018 game, on like New Game Plus, like the highest difficulty. Give me God of War with no HUD. This despite being more of a fan of the game's story, I sort of feel that the gameplay helps its story in certain ways. So being just immersed in the world with no HUD, things like that, feeling just like the surge of Spartan rage and all that jazz. It's just a great feeling. Although I do
Hmm.
understand that God of War, in terms of its gameplay, has some issues that are inherent with how it was set up in 2018. So like with the comparison with Elden Ring, Elden Ring is going off of a huge series of Soulsborne games. Like I said, my second favorite is Dark Souls 1,
Hmm.
and it's building off of a foundation that's been constantly expanding. Elden Ring, if you know a lot about the sort of Souls sphere of gaming, you can tell it's a compilation of just every single one of the Souls games. So
Yeah.
it's basically the best of everything, really. in terms of Souls games. But with God of War, I think that they absolutely expanded on it as much as they could have without just making it a completely different game. So, for example, with God of War 2018, you said you were 11 hours in. Did you ever get the second pair of weapons?
Blades of Chaos, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, like in Ragnarok, you play as Kratos, who gets a max of three weapons, excluding some like random sort of amulets and uh, artifacts, which basically give him sort of a small boost here and there, provide some sort of effect.
Mm.
Meanwhile, if we look towards something like Elden Ring, we can go ahead and see just countless different gameplay combinations that are just unbelievably unthinkable. People even now are playing it and finding new interesting combos. But with God of War, it's put itself into a predicament with regards to gameplay, where unless it's completely giving Kratos, or in this case Atreus as well, a completely new arsenal, then it's restricting things heavily, which I don't believe that they're interested in giving pretty much players more creative license to go with their gameplay in favor of like damaging the story. I don't believe that they want it to be sort of a God of War, like the Greek God of War games experience, where the whole purpose of the game is more gathering weapons. I think a heavy emphasis on the story and the reasons why you get those weapons.
Out of curiosity, what do you think? I don't know the name of them, but it's the little gems that you put on your weapons. Like you could put two gems at a time.
Yeah, just they just go like runic attacks pretty much.
Yeah, those. They're called runic attacks. Okay. And
Um, depends. There's the runic attacks, which are kind of the gems, and then there's ones that basically amplify your stats and things like that. Which those I honestly don't know the name of.
no, but would you consider that like giving them a lot of freedom? Because those are pretty busted. I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was playing through the game, I I was able like whenever I got to arena, which I have a question. Why it is there only five enemies in every arena? Because like when I was playing the game, every arena I went to, I feel like I only saw five enemies at a time. Right?
So I think the main issue, besides one certain enemy, which you can fight in loads, which is basically one that's super skinny and basically runs at you. They definitely try and restrict the amount of enemies on screen at one time, unless you have like an AI companion like Thor. Like in the
Mm.
Atreus sections of Ragnarok, Thor helps a huge amount. So you fight, a huge amount of enemies. I think it's just
Okay.
basically they want to give you as many toys to play with at a time. They don't want to overload you and cause issues.
Okay. But when I was playing 2018 and I got those runics and I just put like the first ones I got in the game and I went to arena, I would just spam the two runics for each weapon and like everything would be dead. And I found that very strange. I found that like, huh, that's that's a bit broken. I was playing on because I noticed you can't play the hardest difficulty. You have to play the second hardest, I think, right? To get it unlocked.
Um, I forget about 2018, but that might be right.
Yeah, I remembered it being something like that. And yeah, that was a bit strange for me. And the other thing I'm not a fan of, and this is like all Sony games I have a problem with, modern Sony games, is holding left stick. Just casually holding left stick for like 3 minutes. And like I get it, there's dialogue and stuff, but normally when I play games, I don't really like to just be forced to pay attention to the story, if that makes sense. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I know it's a very weird stance, trust me. But like when I was playing through the game, the first 10 minutes or 20 minutes of it, right? I found it incredibly annoying that I couldn't skip the cutscenes, and those moments I was just holding left stick the whole way through. And that very much annoyed me throughout the whole game. It like all the times I could remember on the top of my head where I was just holding left stick was during the beginning holding the log anytime with the canoe. Um, one time you were holding a pig. I remember that. One time you were holding Atreus, and another time. What was that other time? There was one other time, and I can't remember right now. But those moments really bog down the experience when it comes to just like playing the game, you know?
Mhm. So I think with the well, firstly, just for the preface, I'm absolutely not going to go ahead and die on the hill of it's completely fine, they're unskippable. I'm all about player agency, so if a player does not want to, go through a cutscene, they should be able to skip
Yeah,
it through and through.
yeah.
Um, I do think the reason why they have them unskippable, at least for the 2018 game, is because it's sort of the first sort of impression you get of you know uh, that whole story. So if you go from like the Greek games and you start off with the funeral of Faye, not Atreus's wife, Atreus's mother, and if you just skip it and then even if it may be your choice, it may damage the story as a whole because that starting cutscene is very important. But I do
Mm.
actually play still be able to. Now, for certain moments of the game where you do have to just basically just push forward on the left stick and all that jazz, I think that's except one of those you mentioned with the boar, I think it's acceptable. The boar, it's been simply a cutscene, but with like the one thing you're holding at tracks, it's basically done to establish tension, and you can definitely say it can bog down the gameplay experience. But I do believe that the purpose of it, which I believe is a purpose it succeeds in, is to amplify the story atmosphere of the game, especially in that segment. I don't know if you particularly remember, but it's when you hear the horn get blown on like on the way to Freya's house. And what I took away from the scene, I know some people have taken some other things away, um, is the idea that you're being chased. Some people have felt that it's basically to create a mystery of who blew the horn. I don't think that's the case. I think the purpose of the scene, the slowness of it, is basically impending doom. Mimir, the head that is on Kratos' waist, is like, Odin's eye is watching you, brother. Now that you've taken to killing his kid and things like that. So I think definitely a balancing act where yes, it can damage the gameplay of the story, and sometimes the story itself, like the boar scene where you have to hold certain combos to basically like help the goddess Freya with surgery on the boar. That is definitely not a hill I'm even willing to even slightly die on. It's not something that should have included. It should simply been a cutscene.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting topic we could get into. Story over gameplay type things. Um, I'm fine with stories in games normally, but the thing is, one of my favorite, like Fallout 2, right? That game's very story heavy based, kind of. But the thing is, you can interact with the story and change it and with your choices and stuff. When it's like a linear story, I have a hard time getting into those. When it comes to those, Halo 2 is the only story that I could actually engaged with, and that was because I played the game and like experienced the gameplay first, which made me curious. But like if you want to do a story game like that, I would appreciate it if I could just at least skip them. You know, at least Halo 2 and stuff gave me the option like that. And on top of that, it just like those moments. Like I kind of get like they were trying to do like a whole like serious scene and build up and all this. I feel like you could do it through all those parts with cutscenes. You don't really need the player to hold left stick, do you?
Oh no, I absolutely agree with that. It's from what I've heard, many developers go on about it because while I do cover lore, I also could just cover the game in general. So I listen to a lot of the developer interviews and whatnot. A lot of the developers express that it's basically to immerse the player in the sort of world, things like that. But I don't agree with them on
Yeah, I
that.
don't agree with that
Yeah,
either. I would
no, I
say I don't know if you like Dead Space, but I recently been playing Dead Space for the first time. And I would say that game does a way better job at implying the story while like being immersed and stuff. Um, and also in that game, I noticed that you can actually like while someone's talking to you and like it's kind of a cutscene, you can still aim down and shoot and stuff. And I think that's the better way of doing it. You know, you still have full control of what you can do if you want to do something like that. You know?
Hmm. I do think that there's one choice they made that definitely is a part of the reason why they're going down this path with avoiding cutscenes and more favoring sort of player interactivity, quote unquote.
Mm.
It's the, and I'm interested to see one, interested to know your stance on this. The always consistent camera, the never cut camera that they have.
Oh yeah.
That's around Kratos' back, basically. Like throughout, I think both the 2018 and the 2022 game, Ragnarok, of course. Basically, the camera never cuts. There's transitions,
Yeah.
yes, but never a single cut.
Yeah, I noticed that. I I have to play the older games to know if like a one cut is useful, but off of my experience with video games that do like one cut type of cutscenes, the one that pops in my mind is Halo Infinite. Have you ever played Halo Infinite campaign?
I haven't played the campaign, no.
In the Halo Infinite campaign, they do the one cut thing, and the problem with those, it feels like the scope is missing, if that makes sense. If you ever watched Halo 2 or played Halo 2 and saw the cutscenes in it, you see
Yes.
Master Chief like drop down a bomb, and it was pretty fucking badass with all the scope going on, right? It had these really cool superhero type shots. And when Halo Infinite started doing it, they had one pretty neat scene with Master Chief with he was dropping down from a pelican, and it's like it doesn't have the scope. So I do know that the original God of War games had a big emphasis on the scope. Like I remembered one cutscene. I played a little bit of God of War 2, but I've seen the cutscenes from them. And I remembered I think it was the third one where you're climbing on top of a giant and slicing in half and shit. I was like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know for God of War, but I would say that one cuts do kind of ruin the scope of the game in a lot of ways. If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. With God of War, the situation that it's dealing with is it absolutely increases the sort of story for the father and son story, where you have to very much immerse yourself in like you are Kratos throughout the games and whatnot. But the issue is, of course, is they have to figure out how to do transitions.
Mm.
For example, in Ragnarok, Kratos goes ahead and dream he falls asleep. But the issue is, how do you get him to fall asleep and transition into a dream without counting the camera? And the developers went ahead and said this was a huge issue for us, just having Kratos fall asleep and enter a dream. So just going on that, going ahead and going from just a dream was an issue. What about going into a huge battle? And that's the issue that happened, in my opinion, with God of War Ragnarok's, well, Ragnarok, when it was the final climactic battle to end all the gods and whatnot. We
Yeah, that's
barely
interesting.
saw anything. It was, in my opinion, pretty disappointing. I the game itself, I think, is very good, especially in terms of story, and I personally like the gameplay. But it definitely, it definitely didn't go ahead just unscathed with a lot of the choices it made.
That's actually something I heard that Ragnarok's gameplay is actually better. And I was like, oh, really? Because when you're looking at from side to side, like when you're seeing the two gameplays, you're like, that doesn't look different. But from what I understand, there's a lot of like things under the hood they changed. So I was like, oh, okay. I heard runic attacks aren't as powerful in Ragnarok and stuff. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, they definitely amped. Well, basically, a lot of the runic attacks in the 2018 game are a part of Kratos' just regular sort of really set of weapons. A lot of the skills you can get just from naturally leveling up, just button combos and whatnot. They're just blatantly just skills from the other game, rather runics from the other game.
Oh,
So,
so they completely removed runics, is what you're saying.
um, they more or less transitioned a lot of the runics from the 2018 game to his just standard attacks. In Ragnarok, you can still use a lot of runic attacks, but they're more for certain uses. Um, so Kratos' runic attacks, or like his light and heavy attacks, or say like the axe, for example. In the 2018 game, there were around eight-ish for each of the categories, maybe around about five or six if I'm just overestimating it on accident. But for Ragnarok, there's actually a substantial amount less. I believe there's around three for each of the weapons in their categories. So there's, for example, with the new spear, there's a selection of three for the light attack and three for the heavy attack. So they definitely did try and make things more, I'd say, simplified. A lot of the
Mm.
stats that you can handle in the 2018 game were very simplified in Ragnarok.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Hmm. I might have to try Ragnarok then. Because I have a PS4, but I call it my Bloodborne box, basically. Because I only use it for Bloodborne, but if they change things like that, that's kind of interesting. I'm a little curious.
Yeah, they definitely sort of tried to make things more simple, but also just more basically open to creativity in the Ragnarok game. But one thing I want to ask though, if you haven't played Ragnarok, or well, first, have you seen the cutscenes of it or the story?
I have seen the cutscenes, and I've seen four different people with two different perspectives play it.
Mhm. I
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
I'll be honest, not a bad choice for a lot of PlayStation games. A lot of people call them movie games. I think as long as the gameplay is good, it's still a good game. God of War, I think it's definitely very good. But if we go ahead and look at things like, I don't know, The Last of Us, that's definitely more in line of a movie game, or especially like the latest Uncharted. Um,
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask if you haven't really much like handled Ragnarok yourself. How did Synthetic Demand bring you into this whole deal? I believe he mentioned you or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I've done like two response videos on him. One of them being Doom Eternal, and that video turned out to be like, I think it was the same length as yours. And I did another response on him on, I think it was the Suicide Squad. Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of why he brought me in. That's why he mentioned me. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely was interesting. 'Cause not gonna lie, I believe this one fella. Have you ever spoken with a guy called Dead Metal Media at all?
Dead Metal Media. I don't think so. No.
Okay, because I don't remember. I think he's connected with you in some way. I don't really remember,
Dead Metal
but
Media. Here,
I
let me look up his name real
yeah.
quick because I'm not good with names. I have to look at their channel. Dead
Mhm.
Metal Media. Now you mention it, it does sound it's ringing a bell. Oh, this guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember him now. Yeah. Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, how are you connected with him? Because not gonna lie, I know you even prior to all of this because of something with him, but I don't remember what was the situation exactly.
He made like a what was it? Let me look back at my channel because I don't really remember. I think I responded to him on. Let me see here. I have to look. What did I respond to him on? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. When yeah, the Halo Infinite shit. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
I know him a bit, pretty much like he made some God of War videos I thought were very funny, but he's definitely a unique guy, unique
Oh
channel,
yeah.
absolutely.
dude's hilarious. I knew he was a troll from the beginning. I just found him hilarious. But yeah, we went back and forth. He brought me up in a video. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Shit.
what else were you hoping to talk about God of War? Do you have any complaints about the story, perhaps?
That you might find this heartless of me, but when I was playing God of War, right? I got 2 hours in and I noticed like, okay, I can't skip any of these cutscenes and it's kind of driving me crazy. And I looked online and I saw, oh, if you play New Game Plus, you can skip them. So I I went on Nexus Mod Manager, went to God of War, and I saw, oh shit, someone has a New Game Plus save. So I just used that. I was like, okay, now I can actually skip them. Because honestly, I again, I don't know enough of the story, but the little I saw, I already knew the kid was gonna annoy me. I just knew right off the bat. I wasn't a big fan of him. So,
Yeah, no. Atreus is a hot topic in the God of War community, to say the least.
yeah, I could tell.
But
um, out of curiosity, what do you think of Under the Mayo's video on God of War?
I need to check it. I believe I watched the first one, but I haven't checked out his Ragnarok one. I wanted to check it out, but another creator went and did a video on it, but I didn't want to go ahead and also reply to that video and pretty
Mm.
much like into any drama.
Ah, yeah. Well, actually, if you responded to him, I think he would actually respond back to you. Because he would find you as one of those people that aren't, I
But that
guess, more edgy. I think that's the camp I would fall in. I'm a little bit more edgy, so he wouldn't. Of course, he wouldn't do it for me, but I'm sure he would do one for you if you like responded like in a nice way.
I think I'm definitely going to check it out at some point. I watched I think the first like, couple minutes of it. I know his first one was very much a heavy emphasis on gameplay. For me, as you can tell, if you've even like seen a bit of my video on Synthetic Man, I basically completely skipped his gameplay section, which frankly, even if he had criticisms that might have been of something interesting to respond to, from what I've seen of him and his streams actually playing the game, I definitely didn't skip over much worth
Yeah,
commenting on.
yeah, definitely. Because Synthetic Man, he's a special breed of retard. Let's be honest. The guy is just he's on another level. Uh, but
For me, I'm split between I don't know. I'm sort of leaning towards he knows what he's doing with his YouTubing. He knows what sort of crowds he's catering towards, and he's just basically trying to cultivate those sort of crowds and benefit off of them. That's what my sort of cynical mind goes to, I guess.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, see, like, when I was watching his video, because I was kind of watching it, because it's curiosity's sake, everyone's talking about it, why not? Let's see what it's about. And when he talked to the story sections, I had no fucking clue what he was going over. But when he was going over the gameplay sections, I was like, okay, maybe he's making a point here. You know, like I'm not entirely sure because some of the things he brought up, I was like, yeah, I had that issue with God of War 2018. So I don't know if he yeah, I don't know. I do know the story sections were bad though. I know that for a fact. And that's why I don't mention the story. Because
Yeah,
I don't I guess I just don't care enough to know about it.
yeah, no. So basically, the folks who just aren't interested in in the story, like you are, full on, right on, like completely
Yeah.
fine and dandy. But with the case of Synthetic Man, we had a situation where basically someone who didn't like the story wanted to be a story critic and wanted to say things were flaws with the story and inconsistencies and things like that, all the while
Yeah.
not paying attention to the story.
The little I responded, well, when I responded to his Suicide Squad video, he said a lot of just factually incorrect things when it came to the story. So I can take a good idea of probably a lot of things he got wrong. Yeah, and that guy is just he's also very he's super wrong, but also manipulative how he's wrong. Have you noticed that? If that makes sense?
Absolutely. I had to cut out so much of my response video that was just me going ahead and describing what he was doing with almost each and every point of his.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Like,
guy is just something.
you know, he absolutely is, um, sort of trying to cultivate. I believe the word is basically just like an anti-CW sort of crowd. Like,
Yeah.
basically say something's like woke, even though it isn't, and more or less try and gain a community that way, gain immediate support to a thing. Like, I like what's your stance on like the Last Jedi, for example?
My stance on it? Um,
Yeah.
I I understand why people hate it. I definitely get why. But when I watched it, I was just laughing because of how bad it was. So I completely understand the issues. I see them; they're blatant. I watch it more as like Batman and Robin. I watch it ironically, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance, gold.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
with Synthetic Man, what he absolutely was doing in his video was he was trying to manipulate his audience through sort of connecting things, making connections where there were none. For example, I think like 3 or 4 or so times he would go ahead and say, "Oh, this is a subversion in the story." Like The Last Jedi. This is a Ryan Johnson subversion. And then in the case, for example, like the character Freya, he would be like, "Oh well, this is feminist agenda because she can defeat Kratos," even though he's completely like avoiding any of the scenes where Kratos is very making it obvious he was holding back completely. So he's definitely very manipulative with his lies.
Yeah, that sounds about right. The guy is. I know how it is to deal with him. I still remember clearly one of his arguments he made for Doom Eternal, and I still bring it up to this day because I'm surprised no one mentions it. In his video, in his Doom Eternal video, he said no one cares about how good you are fighting at bots. No one cares for a single player game, right? Because if you've played Doom Eternal and you master the game, it's pretty fucking cool. But he also likes Dark Souls, and I was like, would you consider that fucking fighting bots too, or hell, even in this situation, God of War fighting bots? But yet someone, every time someone brings that up to him, he's like, "You're taking me out of context." It's like I don't even know what context you meant with that. Like what? But yeah,
Yeah, no,
he
it's
hates to
very
admit when
strange.
he's wrong. He hates to
Oh,
admit when he's wrong.
absolutely. I mean, like, some people ask me, like, "Hey, do you think he's going to respond to you?" No,
No.
very unlikely, very unlikely. But maybe like I don't know, send a slur my way about like my channel or something like that. Or me personally. But beyond that, he's not going to comment on any of the criticisms or counters to any of his points. Not all whatsoever.
Yeah, and if you do get him on a point, he'll just make an excuse for it. Like when that zero needs coffee thing he was doing, and the one point he admitted he was wrong on, he was like, "Of course, obviously, you choose the one weakest argument in my video." I was like, "What? What? What are you talking about, dude? What?"
And he even said like, "Oh, yeah, I was wrong about this, but it doesn't matter." Like, excuse me,
Yeah, that's
if it
another
didn't
thing
matter,
too.
why
Yeah,
did you even bring it up in your original video? What's
yeah.
the
When
situation
yeah, if I remembered right, it was like a boss for Ragnarok, right? And Zero
there?
says like, "Well, you don't have. That's an optional boss." And it was like, okay, I didn't know it was optional. I was wrong on that. Does that change my criticism? No. And it's like, it does though. Like it
Exactly.
completely does. What are you talking about? But yeah, that guy is just something else. See,
Yeah.
that's why when I wanted to talk to you about God of War, I was just gonna, be chill about the story and just like talk specifically about gameplay, because that's the shit I care about. I like gameplay in my games. And I don't know, God of War's gameplay, I would just, I don't know, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't put it up to a par of like, yeah, this is like really good gameplay. Because like when I play Halo 2, for example, I played Halo 2 because I love the gameplay of it. Okay, Halo 2 is just like a really enjoyable game, and there's a lot of it. But whenever I played God of War, I felt like most of the time I was barely fighting enemies. I was just walking straight, doing very baseline puzzles. Pick up crystal, put crystal here, and it's like, okay. It's like, I don't know.
Well, in the case of that, I would definitely recommend Ragnarok because it's sort of structured in a manner where there's story here and there. I think there's maybe one puzzle section that's maybe a bit too much, which is in some sort of mountain. Beyond that, it's very gameplay based.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear. Yeah, if it's more gameplay based in 2018, I might enjoy it more. Cause like the little gameplay I played, I was like, okay, this is neat, but it ended in like 1 minute. That was another problem I had. It's like the gameplay would end in a minute for me. But I was like,
Mhm. Well,
it's just like, I don't know. It feels like whenever there's an arena, they don't put enough enemies in the arenas in 2018. It feels so limited on the amount of enemies. And I think that's because of the camera, but I'm not sure.
I'd agree. Yeah, I definitely think it's the camera playing a factor.
Yeah.
It's just I some people believe that they should revert to the sort of in a way isometric camera of the older games, but I don't believe that they should do that. But I do believe they need to adopt a more at least the option of a more Dark Soulsy sort of camera. Because right now, most of the time you get to like Kratos's I don't know roundabout his like waist most of the time, maybe a bit below it, but you barely ever see like his legs in terms of like how much field of view you have. The very max you're getting just in terms of dodging and whatnot. But
Hmm.
I will say, in terms of enemy variety, not necessarily amount of enemies, although I do think, well, thinking on it actually first, one of the complaints about Ragnarok is that there's too many enemies at a time in some instances. So in a way,
Really?
yeah,
Hmm.
so in a way they may have actually appealed to your taste, which hopefully didn't go overboard for you, but they definitely did add a lot more enemies. But in terms of enemy variety, if you played through the 2018 game uh, in whole, you'll absolutely have the issue of there's barely any enemy variety. There's
Hmm.
around 6 enemy types in 2018 game. Meanwhile, in Ragnarok, there's around like 20-ish, round about there, maybe a bit more. So definitely improved on that front.
Oh, okay. Yeah, enemy variety was a thing I noticed too in the game. I was like, there's not many enemies in this game. And then the repeated troll fights. Holy fuck. That's. Oof.
Yes. The troll fights, I can say, weren't a decision the developers wanted to make. For example, there's a troll fight in Helheim, rather,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you fight some like green, sort of buffed up troll. He was not supposed to be in the game. They basically sort of they that huge sort of eagle in Helheim. I don't know if you just saw it
Yeah.
like past the bridge. You were
Yeah,
supposed
yeah,
to
I got
fight
you.
that in the 2018 game
Oh,
originally.
really?
Yeah, but the issue was for they said both a mixture of story and budget reasons, but I do believe it's more budget reasons. They had to cut it.
Really? Hmm.
In
Interesting.
exchange, you got another troll, which not a good bargain.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I heard in God of War Ragnarok they actually like made a joke about the trolls in God of War 2018, which I thought was pretty good, like, make a little joke about your last game, I like that when developers do that. They poke fun at their last game.
Yeah, no, the moment you see a troll, you basically immediately kill it. You just like snap the neck of it or something like that very quickly.
Yeah.
but very glad that they improved on that front.
Oh, that's good, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I have to try God of War with a different mindset or something, because I don't know. I can't. It's the same problem with The Last of Us. Believe it or not, I used to be a huge Naughty Dog fan. Like, huge. I used to love their games. I played the fuck out of Jack 1 and 2, Crash. I loved them. And then they did The Last of Us, and I was like, wait a minute. This is like a complete decline of what your gameplay used to be. What happened here? I was super confused. And then
Mm.
I just saw the game like getting so much praise. I was like super confused. But it's just like the same thing with God of War. When I was playing it, I just couldn't stop thinking, this is kind of like The Last of Us in a lot of ways. I guess the gameplay is different, but like when it came to like how the story is done, or not the story is done, but how like whole left move in cutscene type thing, you know? It was a
Yeah,
very strange.
there absolutely there is the trend, which is very, very obvious, and even the director of the 2018 game, Cory Barlog, has admitted to this, although it's inherently a bad thing, that he absolutely was inspired by The Last of Us. Looking
Was
at
it?
just, oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely was inspired by it
Hmm.
because even just looking at the story, just a father and a son, a very old character and a very young one. Looking at the story, it's definitely it's very obvious that they took some inspirations, and I do think
Hmm.
that there is absolutely, in terms of the higher echelons of gaming, not like Larian Studios or like the developers of Baldur's Gate 3 or Divinity 2. You know, the smaller ones definitely aren't interested in this, but the larger ones, which will get the reward, get the awards, like the Game Award and whatnot, um, they're definitely leaning towards movies and copying movies while trying to refine the gameplay and integrate it with the story, which is definitely very hard.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty difficult thing to do. Because, like, I don't know, I look back at Halo 2 and I think, why did I thoroughly enjoy that game? You know, and definitely one of them is the gameplay. And and the other one is definitely the story. The story of Halo 2 is probably the strongest story in in any of the Halos. And it's just I think it's because it strike that balance between gameplay and movie. Like you've seen the new like HD remastered cutscenes for Halo 2, right?
Yeah.
You can watch those on YouTube, and it's like an hour and a half, and it's like a full length movie, and it's like, man, this is fucking good. You could literally just watch it as a movie, and but when you play the game, you still have really solid gameplay to back that up. Fuck, I died. But whenever I play God of War, and then I would go back and just watch the story, it's like I feel like I'm not really missing a lot, you know? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah. So I would definitely call 2018 and Ragnarok completely different games in terms of this sort of
Oh,
area.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. The 2018 game is very much, it wants to sell you on the concept, and then Ragnarok expands it. So in terms of just the format, right? 2018 is all about just the relationship between these two characters. And the issue is, of course, with such a small cast of characters and focusing on just these two in particular, you can't do much besides, do the walking around and do the speaking. But in Ragnarok, there's, cities of combat where you'll fight in one area. There'll be a cutscene in another one, and that sort of thing, where it's a mix and not just this sort of, well, attempts at immersion, which are extremely unimmersive. I mean, there are still like quick time events, and all that jazz, but I think they don't hurt the experience. They can be annoying here and there, but I don't think
Hmm.
they're really much of a thing to complain about. So, for example, like something that lasts only a minute in, say, a section that's, I don't know, 10 hours long, I don't think it can really, destroy the experience.
Oh, okay. I see. Hmm. Might have to try Ragnarok. It sounds like a way more refined game than 2018.
Absolutely. Um, some people still prefer 2018. I'm solidly, even though I think Ragnarok has more issues story wise, solidly in the camp of Ragnarok.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, the story seemed. Yeah, one thing I'm kind of curious. One story thing. This isn't my complaint, but this is why I normally hear about the story of Ragnarok. I'm kind of curious what you think about it. Um, the assassination of Kratos' character from the original three to 2018 Ragnarok. Do you think it's justified, or do you think it's assassination to begin with?
I believe it's hmm. So 2018. There's no sort of Jake Skywalker sort of energy there. It's very obvious that a substantial amount of time has passed, and Kratos is still himself. He recognizes who he was before, and he's moving past it. But there's a big issue um,
Hmm.
with a lot of these or the folks who make this argument. I'm not saying everyone, of course, but I'm saying some folks who make this argument very strongly. They need to replay the old ones. Kratos, for example, if you look towards the old ones, even Ascension, which is the most recent of the Greek saga, he is very much uh, a lot less aggressive than what a lot of people remember. Everyone remembers, like, oh, Zeus, I bring the death of Olympus, all that jazz. But the fact of the matter is, if we look beyond those scenes where he's just obviously just trying to, destroy Zeus and all and whatnot, he's very diplomatic. If he walks up to someone, even if they're like a servant of Zeus, he'll say, let me pass, or I'll kill you. Let me pass, and I'll go my way. Simple as that. We look towards the character of Pandora in God of War 3. She and her relationship with Kratos is quite literally full on,
Hmm.
just 2018, but less refined. So it was already there to begin with. And then if we look towards, the family dynamic, Kratos was always very much affected by his family. So him being focused on protecting his new family, that's not uh, out of the usual by any extent. But there's the question of whether or not in Ragnarok in 2018, is he not the god of war? Is he not him? Is he not Kratos? Is he submitting to these weaklings? Is he just becoming like an average, Joe character? Like
Hmm.
just just a sort of a self insert. I don't believe that's the case. I like to call like a lot of these sort of just basic characters, just like the bathroom signs. Like you go to like you walk into the bathroom, you look towards the sign, you just see an average just figure. That's what a lot of characters, even Joel, to an extent from The Last of Us, Alan called him one of those. Just average characters that people put themselves into with a lot less complexity. But I think Kratos, everything he does in the new games lines completely with what he does in the older ones, just through and through.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. See, I haven't played. I played it, God of War 2 for like an hour on my Steam Deck. And I was like, okay, you know what? I definitely see the appeal of this game, not gonna lie. I was like, yeah, I see it, but I'm not into I'm not into shit, what are they called?
Beat 'em ups?
Beat 'em ups? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I'm
so.
not into those type of games. I don't know why. I've tried a few of them. I tried Devil May Cry 5. I've tried God of War 2. I forgot what the other one I tried. Bayonetta, I think. I tried all those and it's like, yeah, I don't know. They're just not for me. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, Well, we like isometric games. We're the weird ones if we ask anyone else.
That's true. I tell people, yeah, Fallout 2 is my favorite, and they're like, what? Fallout 2? It's like, yeah, Fallout 2 is fucking awesome. To be fair, I don't play a lot of isometric games. I play almost any Obsidian isometric game for sure. But I don't play a lot of those. The only one I genuinely really do like is just Fallout 2 and New Vegas. Those games are just something about them are just super unique that I don't think any other game's ever been able to do, sadly.
The world of them is just practically perfect.
Yeah, the world is like super perfectly crafted. Everyone that lives in the world is like super real. And you come in to fuck it up. I love
Yeah.
that. Um, one of my favorite experiences. Have you played Fallout 2?
Yes.
Oh, okay. My favorite experience in Fallout 2 is going to New Reno and getting the suitcase from Vault City to meet Mr. Bishop. And I love the idea that you can work for the guy and then go fuck his wife and daughter. That is just hilarious to me. And like you meet Mr. Bishop and he acts like a real person in this world. Like it's pretty crazy. I don't know. Fallout is just a very unique franchise for that.
You
Um,
know, those sort of like with like Fallout 2 and like New Vegas, it definitely seems like it's a real world, and then you're just thrown in, and who knows what's going
yeah,
to happen at that point. You're the
yeah,
wild.
yeah. That's why I tell people like Fallout is one of those games that it feels like you're in a real world, but you're the wild card of the world, so you could do whatever the fuck you want, and I love that freedom. Um, something. What do you think about Fallout as a franchise? Out of curiosity, like which Fallout games do you like?
For me, honestly, New Vegas is just right on my heart. It's my
Okay,
absolute my favorite. I,
I
I
love
like
New Vegas. Yeah,
I like the older ones like Fallout 1 and 2. But the gameplay for me, I think I'm just more used to sort of newer sort of isometric games. Like
yeah,
um, like
yeah.
Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 are sort of similar to Fallout. They're more sort of D&D based, but those ones I
Yeah.
like, but I definitely prefer the sort of newer ones. Isometric games at least, like turn-based and whatnot. But for the newer games like Fallout 4, 76, they don't do it for me. So
Oh, okay. What about
yeah,
Fallout 3? What do you think of Fallout 3?
Fallout 3, even though it's an interesting setting, I really don't like playing a character without
Yeah.
like any sort of choice. I want to be just the courier, a nameless guy. And
Yeah.
Fallout 3, you're just imagine trying to play Fallout 3 with gray hair. Like playing Fallout 3 with just an old man aesthetic. That does not make sense. Why do you look older than your father?
Yeah, I
Like
know. It's I'm glad we completely agree on the Fallout franchise. But I don't know, when it comes to Fallout 2 in New Vegas, I love Fallout 2 more. I don't know. Fallout 2 just that game hits different. It's funny too, cause I have a friend that hates Fallout. Like every single Fallout game, he hates them. He's never played them actually. He played New Vegas and hated it. And I gifted him a copy of Fallout 2 for the first time. And I sat there and guided him through the games, through the whole old user interface and like the quest design and all this stuff. And he came out actually loving the game. And now it's one of his favorites. And I find that really interesting. I
it's
think
really
Fallout 2 really striked a certain balance that I don't think the other Fallout's been able to do. New Vegas got close. I will say New Vegas got really close. And I love New Vegas, but yeah.
it's I think it's really just the freedom that it gives you.
Yeah,
And the
definitely.
acknowledgement that yes, it is a game. Some wacky stuff can happen. And that's
Oh
definitely the
yeah.
difference between Fallout 1 and 2. There's that more sort of openness and
Yeah.
recognition of what it is.
The biggest problem people have with Fallout 2 is too goofy. It's like, I don't know, man. There's some serious parts in there. There's like people going over rape in the game. It's like fucking hell. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. There's some dark shit in there, but it's also
absolutely.
just like a genuinely really good game.
Yeah, it pretty much Fallout 2. I think it's Fallout 2 is as goofy as you want to make it. As long as you just
Yeah.
understand like what's actually the setting and everything, then it's a lot less goofy than you think.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It takes the world very, very serious, and the people in the world take the world serious, which is really interesting.
Hmm.
Like, and then you just come in here and it's like this guy's telling you, "Hey, fucker, you better do the job in time." You're like, "Fuck off," and then everyone just starts shooting at you. It's fucking great. You could, I think, have you ever seen Mr. Caption?
I haven't.
Oh man, Mr. Caption. One of his videos, the best way I can describe Fallout is by what he said in a video once. He said Fallout isn't Fallout if I can't tell someone to go fuck themselves in 20 different ways. It's like, yeah, that's Fallout.
Yeah, no,
You know this,
like
this.
oof.
Oh, sorry.
Fallout
Go.
4, Fallout 4's dialogue system, that was just the biggest
Oh yeah.
stab in the back. Just jeez. I could
Dude,
not enjoy it at all.
Fallout
Just
4's dialogue system is an embarrassment.
yeah, no. I remember just doing the sarcasm option at one point, and then just being absolutely
God.
brutal. Just being like, hey, what happened if I shot you in the head? I was like, whoa. I was not wanting to do that. It was such a strange choice of theirs. I think they kind of just wanted to be more Mass Effect-y and to an extent more movie-like, which I do think definitely has been harming the Fallout series. Much more than, say, the God of War series. Last of Us, that's a different debate. But, well,
Yeah, Fallout 4. You know what's funny? My first introduction to Fallout was Fallout 4. And even when I first played it, I was like, something's not right about this game. And I don't know what it is. And so I played the other ones. I was like, yep, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense.
hmm,
But Fallout 4 is just that game. It's sad too because none of the Fallout games I would say never had good gunplay. Never did, right? Until Fallout 4, and then it's the weakest one when it comes to RPGs. It's like fuck, man. How do you do that?
yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I have a feeling they might have just sort of gotten a bunch of developers that were really good at gunplay, had them sort of jump in on it,
Oh
fix sort of
no,
thing.
that's not what happened.
Oh,
You want to know who made the gunplay? It wasn't even Bethesda.
who?
It was fucking id Software.
Ah, it's, what do they make? I
Doom,
recognize
Doom.
the name.
They made
Doom?
Doom. Yeah, they made Doom.
Well,
My favorite game, Doom Eternal.
I guess that's why the gunplay was good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, id Software made it. That's the only good thing about Fallout 4. It's id Software that made it. Have you ever
Yeah.
played Doom Eternal?
I I've heard the best things about that game. That's honestly probably the best rated game I've ever heard about.
Really?
Always praise. Yeah, not a
Oh,
single
I'm
person I've ever
glad.
say that's bad. But
I'm glad. That's
I'm
the
not
thing.
too big on shooters. I'm not too big on them.
Really? Okay.
You know,
That's interesting.
for me, I'm sort of just I mean, ironically, I say I'm not big on shooters, and I like DayZ. So I
You
don't
like
know.
Daisy, really?
Yeah, it's
Holy
a
shit. I have that game. And I hate it. That's
it's
hilarious.
it's one. I like games that I can sort of go out of bounds with in a way. Shooters, I don't think really do that. I don't know.
That's interesting.
I'm a big fan of RPGs, I guess.
That's really interesting. I never heard someone that's not a fan of shooters. That's new for me. That's really
I
interesting.
I mean, yeah, basically. I mean, multiplayer ones are fine and dandy to play with friends and all that jazz, but beyond that. they don't do it for me.
Oh, okay. I see.
And then at the
Oh,
same time, I'm perfectly willing to be 1 million, 1,000 meters away with a sniper rifle in Daisy. It's strange. I don't know. I can't give an answer.
so like, have you ever have you ever played a FPS that's like super aggressive though? Like it's really in your face and super aggressive and kind of gives you adrenaline rush. Ever played a game like that?
Um, I've played Rainbow Six Siege, and I know that's basically one of the ones that's up there, but I I'm the worst at it of like the folks I used to play it with. I used to always get the shield operator. Because I thought, hey, I've got a shield. That's interesting. I can maybe do some interesting things with it. Um, but shields weren't very good at that game. You would just get blown up instantly. So
Hmm.
I was never good at it. But
You know, now you made me want to buy you a copy of Doom Eternal. I'm kind of curious how you would react to the game, if I'm honest with you. I would be super curious for someone that doesn't like shooters and never played Doom Eternal or Doom 2016. I would be super curious to see your reaction. I don't know. That would be interesting to see.
for me with shooters, I kind of feel the sort of issue you had with the 2018 game of God of War, where you fight a certain amount of things, you move on, you fight a certain amount of things, you move on. It just I don't they sometimes feel like a slog to me. I don't know. If I'm not
Oh,
going to
okay.
die by one shot, it doesn't do it for me. I don't know.
Really, we don't die by one. So you like those more realistic type of games?
Yeah, I like the games where you can sort of just where you really have to kind of just take in consideration just what you can do, your limitations. You can't do all these crazy things, but you can do some stuff. Like there's this one game which isn't a shooter. It's a very small game called Mountain Blade Warband, and it's a medieval fighting type game. It's one of those. But I don't know if you've heard of like chivalry and whatnot. It's sort of like that.
Chivalry? Is that that melee game, right?
Yeah, where you basically it's medieval setting and whatnot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
with Mountain Blade Warband, think of it sort of like imagine if knights or Vikings could be like Jedi in a way, and kind of like Jedi combat system, where you can jump every which way and you can block everything and you can swing as well as you can, and you're fighting actual players and whatnot who can also they have those limitations, but they can go crazy with you. So you have to block, hit, block, and whatnot. So a lot of the people are just kind of just doing what they're supposed to do and walk around here and there, hold up their shield, block that weapon and whatnot. Swing back, never jump, never, do any dancing or anything like that. And me in that game, I'm jumping nearly every second. I'm jumping, hitting people in the back of the head, things like that. That's the sort of thing I like, where I can grab a game, grab a shooter, be like, hey, this game's about guns, all of this, and I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to go ahead and just try and be my own sort of thing. Because for me too, if the game's a shooter and if it's a modern sort of game, there's probably crossplay. And if there's crossplay, I'm a console guy more or less, which
Oh,
means I'm not winning that fight. I'm not winning that fight at all against a guy, mouse and keyboard and whatnot. So there's no hope for me. So I might as
do
well
you
just have
do you not have like a out of curiosity, do you just don't like PC or do you just don't have a strong computer?
for me, um, I was more or less like raised of like, oh, games on the computer. That's computers are for work and all that jazz. So I never really touched them. The only actual games I've actually played on PC have been on like a just a laptop of mine. So not really anything crazy. And the thing is, a lot of the games are more sort of RPG-ish. Like I played, you know, Fallout 2 on this. I played the Pathfinder game on it, the indie stuff, whatnot. So I never really got to mess around with aiming on the computer, any of that jazz. But I'm sure it's definitely very interesting.
Hmm. Okay. Have you ever tried Mordhau?
I've heard about it. It definitely seems very much just like Chivalry, but just mm, less, less goofy. Shiv's definitely a arcade-ish game. Morehouse looks more realistic.
Yeah, Mordhau I have more experience in. Mordhau's crazy. Mordhau's a nuts game. I used to play it all the time with a friend, but I haven't played it in a while.
Mm.
That's
But
interesting that you're more into those type of games. Have you played Insurgency Sandstorm?
ironically enough, some folks of mine they want to go ahead and like have me play it with them, but I just need to download it. I'll probably play it sometime this week, probably. But it
Oh,
looks
okay.
interesting. It looks more sort of more of a game I'd like, kind of like a mix it kind of like Battlefieldy. I do have to say I do like Battlefield, but I'm also a vehicle guy there. I'm always a, like
Oh
a
yeah,
plane and whatnot guy. So
I like Battlefield too. Battlefield's great. Wait, now I have to ask, what do you think of 2042?
um, so I heard the bad reviews, so I didn't touch it. But it got on Xbox Game Pass and whatnot. Ironically enough, despite being a God of War YouTuber for the most part at the moment, I'm more of an Xbox guy in terms of the games I have.
Mm.
I definitely believe PlayStations, how they do everything is definitely better. But all my friends forever and whatnot have been on Xbox, so I go where my folks are. Not gonna abandon them.
Oh, I
So
see.
they put 2042 on Game Pass. So I was like, hey, I'll check it out, see how it plays. Maybe it'll be fun. So got in the game. It took like 15 minutes to get into one game because they shove you into like this movie that explains the game modes and whatnot. Um, and then shove you into an AI match. So it took 15 minutes to get into the game. So I was like, okay, fine, I can play the game. Go into a jet, flew around, and then I died. I was like, what? What killed me? I blew up? What hit me? And then 5 seconds later, no joke, 5 seconds later, just an advertisement board pops up, just a billboard pops up. I rammed into one that didn't even load in yet.
Oh
And
wow.
that wasn't even like immediately the match started. Things were just loading up. I just shouldn't have, messed around. No, it was like a solid halfway into the match. So at that point, I was like, okay, time to install. No thanks. I'll stick to Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1.
That's interesting. I uh I actually don't like Battlefield 1. I find it one of the more weaker ones, believe it or not.
For
But
me, I respect that. Have you tried flying in it though? That's my only
have I
question.
tried what?
Flying in it.
Yeah, I've tried flying.
How do you like it?
I yeah, I just well, believe it or not, that's one of the issues I have with it is that it's just a incredibly unbalanced game.
Yeah,
I,
that's true.
I don't, yeah, it's very unbalanced. I'm not the biggest fan of that. I
For
understand like
me,
the other battlefields have been a bit unbalanced, but that one just takes it to a whole new level.
hmm, for me,
Yeah.
what I enjoyed of Battlefield 1, and I still enjoy, is just going into it sounds very strange, but Battlefield 1 is the airplanes and the flying aspect of the game is what I want sci-fi games to be. Like
Okay.
so basically in Battlefield 1 you can full on ram another plane. You can full on ram it. But unlike other games, like the other battlefields, if you ram a jet, which I guess is a more understandable one, who's a jet, you immediately die.
Mm.
But in Battlefield 1, you ram a plane, your planes get stuck together, you can just full on make that other plane fall down, immediately reverse, and try and save yours or something like that. So it's sort of like exactly how I want a spacecraft game to kind of be like, where I can go ahead and ram another player's vehicle in the air, and we both
Mm.
can still fight each other after that. Very interesting.
Okay. Whenever I play Battlefield, I do like getting in the jets. They're pretty cool, and ramming people is hilarious. But have you ever, in Battlefield 3, this is something I used to do all the time, and it was really funny because people would get like, especially on, I used to play Battlefield 3 on the 360, and you could hear people whenever you kill them. You could hear them talk, and I would piss people off by doing this, and I would grab AT mines and stick them on top of a jeep and ram the jeep into a fucking tank and blow them up.
That is the stuff. That's the
Yeah,
stuff.
I used to do that all the time, and I'll come out with like sometimes 30 to 40 kills, but I'll also have 30 to 40 deaths. So,
Yeah, for me with Battlefield 4, what I do is for me in that game, similar to the Battlefield 1, I'm all about piloting. I love piloting. So I will, out of all the things I'm good at, and I love to do the passenger planes. But the issue
mm,
is, what are you going to do with the passenger plane? Number one, no one's going to stay in it for more than 2 seconds. You're just a spawn beacon, more or less. And three, you have no guns. But you have C4. So what I like to do is just put C4 right on the nose of it, fly it up to like another, actual aircraft or actual heli with, weapons, or just land it next to a tank, and then kaboom. Simple as
mm,
that. Made it useful.
okay. Speaking of games, another game I just thought of. Ever played Risk of Rain 2? I'm actually playing that right now as we speak. I was curious if you
I
ever played this game.
Isn't it a horror game? I
No,
think.
no.
Oh, it
No,
isn't.
it's a roguelike. I don't know if you're into roguelikes.
Oh, um, I haven't tried them too much, honestly, so I can't really give a take on them.
Oh, okay. Um, I I don't know. After hearing you talk for a moment, I think you might like Risk of Rain 2.
I know
It's a pretty
people
unique game.
People always recommend Path of Isaac, I think it is, or Shadow of Isaac, something like that.
Oh, Binding of Isaac. Yeah.
Binding of Isaac, yeah, I was close, but yeah, people always suggest that one, and I do need to check it out. A lot of friends of mine like it, so it should be a
I've
good one.
played Binding of Isaac. That one's interesting. If you like side scrollers, like old school, like what it reminds me of. Have you ever played the original NES Zelda game?
Um, a bit. I played it when I was like 12, and I didn't go anywhere, and I just died over and over again. But yeah, I
Well,
did.
do you remember the dungeons, how they looked and how they worked?
Yeah.
Imagine that type of layout, but it's a roguelike. And it's pretty cool. I like the idea. It's very ambitious, but I like Risk of Rain more because it's like a 3D type of third person shooter type game. It's really fucking good. It could
Oh,
be a
okay.
third person shooter to a melee to Spider-Man at one point, which is pretty cool.
Huh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
This was supposed to be about God of War, but we just started talking about other games.
Yeah.
I
Well,
do that all the time with people though, so
yeah. Well, one question I do want to ask, and this does relate sort of to God of War and kind of like Synthetic Man's sort of critique of it, um, in gaming in general. What are your
mm.
thoughts on politics in gaming?
um what kind of politics?
Do you think that politics in gaming is, firstly, as present as many people say it is? And second, if it is it a bad thing or a good thing?
Well, I mean, it depends how they're implemented. Like New Vegas is a very political game. And it talks about like a lot of real world things, everything about it too. So
Absolutely.
I hmm?
I said absolutely.
Oh yeah, yeah. So like there's a right way to do political shit in a video game, and New Vegas is like a prime example. I mean, who should run the Mojave? You know, Caesar or NCR or House, and that's still being
Obviously,
talked today.
yeah, obviously the NCR. I'm sure you
Yeah.
disagree. A lot of
Oh
people
yeah,
do.
I highly
Oh,
disagree with that.
well.
That's a whole
NCR.
other conversation we
Oh,
can
yeah,
have,
no,
but
that's another hour and a half worth at least.
and
Same with like,
that's what the game does really well, you know, and it's like you can actually implement some of the things and certain ideologies that the game brings up into real world stuff like that. And it's pretty interesting.
mhm.
But if you're talking about like synthetic man type of politics where it's like anti woke or shit like that, I don't really care. I could really care less about that stuff. As long as if you make a good product, then I don't care. She-Hulk, for example, right? People said it was like, you know, the woke shit and all that. I watched it and laughed how bad it was. Well, I didn't laugh at it. I was mostly dying inside. But it wasn't because it was woke. It was because it was awful, you know?
I couldn't survive it. I did 3 episodes. I did I couldn't do it. No, I'm
Yeah,
good.
see, what I do, I do this with a friend. He's he's kind of on a hiatus at the moment. It's been about a month, but we normally would sit down for a day and just watch anything new that came out in the past week. So all the new movies, so any new episode of those shows like She-Hulk we would watch, and we would suffer through them, and we would do it just to suffer. Yeah, it was awful. We watched all of She-Hulk. We also saw all of Miss Marvel.
That
That
one,
one,
I
that one
haven't,
was that was
I haven't
bad.
even, I haven't even talked. I haven't even like touched it. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know. I've never seen it, so I can't
Don't watch
comment
it. Don't
whatsoever.
watch it. Don't watch
Okay,
it. Stay away
I've heard a
from
lot of
it.
people say not to, but mm,
Yeah, we watched all of them. We watched what was the other one? Moon Knight. I don't
oh yeah,
know.
Moon Knight. Yeah,
Was that it? I don't know. We watched
yeah.
that crap. We watched oh man, we watched so much of that crap. And then we found some really good fucking genuinely good movie shows out of it that no one knows about. And I've been trying to get a few group of people like noticed about this show because it's like genuinely a really good fucking show that no one talks about. And it's sad.
What show?
uh Severance.
Severance. What is it
Mm-hmm.
on?
It's on Apple TV, but I wouldn't even bother trying to find it on Apple TV or pay for a subscription for it. Just I can actually send you a link to watch it for free if you want. But it's such a good show. It's so fucking good, and no one talks about it. And it's so
Yeah.
sad.
Honestly, I think like right now, we went from sort of I think cable TV, which was just whatever whatever channels you like, and that's what you watch. To now,
Yeah,
there's no real channels anymore. Really, there's
yeah,
just
it's fucking
shows.
wild.
Yeah, there's just shows that exist for like 2 months and then disappear. Like besides
Yeah.
like Game of Thrones, what series has appeared out of nowhere and has caught like everyone's attention? Really,
Um, shit, I don't even remember. The last one I remember, and that was Breaking Bad. And that was like fucking a while ago at this point.
that was like that was Walking Dead time frame. That was
Yeah,
so long ago.
dude, Breaking Bad's fucking great.
Oh well, yeah, Better Call Saul. That's something. That's something.
Do you know?
That did catch a lot of.
I have one of the hotter takes of that show.
Oh, I know what happens in it. Like I'm a lot of people like I don't want to watch it. I know how Breaking Bad ends. I know what the show kind of ends like. So there's no point for me to even touch it. I think.
Well, in that sense, it's actually it answers a lot of unanswered questions from Breaking Bad, which is pretty nice. But um, skip the first three seasons.
Oh,
Yeah, skip the first three seasons. Honestly, get to the part where Chuck dies, and that's when the show actually becomes entertaining.
uh, yeah. From what I hear about folks, that's definitely a hot take. Definitely a hot take. But
Yeah,
frankly. I've heard that's surprising. A series that ends better than it started. That is so rare. So rare.
Well, it's the same for Breaking Bad, honestly, because another hot take, I would say the first two seasons of Breaking Bad are pretty eh, pretty eh.
Mm.
I don't know.
For me, I
Um,
wasn't so big on the second season, honestly.
yeah, the second season's the biggest issue. The first season, it has some problems too, but third season on, it gets really good.
Hmm.
Really, really, it's also interesting, how Vince Gilligan, right? That's his name.
I think so.
Fucking inspired by Grand Theft Auto of all things.
Yeah.
That's the thing that shocks me the most. Inspired by Grand Theft Auto of all things. And that's
That's
pretty cool.
something. I guess
Yeah.
that's. I guess I mean shoving crime into sort of just like the show. I mean, it's kind of like the open sort of A. I guess. If you look towards like other crime shows, you were either you were either the cops, law enforcement, or I mean what the mobster. As The
Yeah.
Sopranos, I guess, was a great show. But like besides, the mob life or the cop life, there were no shows that did anything in between. So definitely
Yeah.
very daring.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
This is another thing that might be an interesting topic to talk about. I recently got into a kerfuffle with a friend of mine. Do you know Anomaly? Well, maybe I shouldn't talk about this.
I
No, I'm
know.
going to talk about it because
Hmm.
I want to ask you a question that ends with this. So, what do you think about inspirations and ripoffs? Where do you think the line is drawn?
That's a hard one.
That's a hard
Um,
one.
yeah. I think the line is drawn between just what you do with it. So not to just throw back to God of War, but the God of War and The Last of Us definitely inspirations, but they did something else with it.
Oh,
Um, if we look towards, have you watched the movie Logan?
I have. I
All right,
actually recently rewatched it for curiosity's sake. Yeah.
yeah. So, and do you know like the general story of The Last of Us?
The general story? Yeah, yeah. Are you saying that Logan got the idea from The Last of Us?
From what I've heard, that's like it definitely is something that's affected it. Definitely something that affected it. There was like this sort of
Character changes a lot.
there was sort of this untouched kind of sort of not I mean the age group has gone plenty of stuff, plenty of movies for it, but like the sort of just like guys who are about the age where they do have a daughter that's like around like 10 or so 13. There was a lot of audience there, a huge amount of audience there.
Hmm.
So it definitely seemed like after The Last of Us, blew up, a lot of other shows and movies and games, of course, did want to sort of catch that trend. Even if we look towards the Mandalorian, we can see a bit of that trend
Hmm.
of just one other character gets another character who they're not particularly interested in, defending, but they grow to love them, whatever. Um, but probably Mandalorian's probably the worst instance of this, because it's just always cute. That's why he's supposed to defend. That's all. But Logan, I think, definitely was something that was inspired by The Last of Us, and
Pretty
that
sure
sort of
James.
idea.
I'm pretty sure I remembered watching an interview with James Mangold because recently I've been looking behind the scenes of this guy for very specific reasons that maybe we'll get into. He was inspired from westerns, old westerns, more than anything. I don't remember. Maybe he was inspired by The Last of Us because now you mention it, you could definitely see it. But yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
You could definitely just relate them back to westerns. I mean, there's always just like the person who doesn't want to defend folks, but eventually does because of one reason or another. But just to answer your original question, it really just it depends on just the plot. So the kind of the synopsis of like um, a great example is looking at Star Wars. Do you know much about Star Wars? Yeah, I think you do because you referenced
What?
you watched the Last Jedi.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen Star Wars.
Okay. Sometimes I don't know what. Sometimes I have to answer that question.
Hot
Sometimes.
take here though.
Oh,
Indiana Jones better than Star Wars. I'm saying it.
um, Star Wars is near and dear to my heart. Indiana Jones is way better. I love Star Wars more than Indiana Jones, but as films, one series is way better than the other.
Well,
Uh,
I man, we'll talk about Indiana Jones in a moment, but continue your thought.
okay. Um, so if we look towards something like A New Hope and The Force Awakens, that is a clear-cut ripoff, through and through a
Yeah,
ripoff. But if we look
definitely.
towards The Last of Us and God of War, it's taking the synopsis, like the thesis statement, I guess, the original idea of the thing, and expanding on it. Meanwhile, if we have The Force Awakens and A New Hope, it's blatantly just copy and pasting things. Characters who are fill-ins for others are just constant affairs. Always the case.
Interesting. Yeah, because I had the same thought, right? I thought this. I think the same way as you. Have you ever seen YMS's video on Kimba the White Lion?
Yeah.
Really good video. I think it's one of his fucking best videos. Honestly, it's like fucking bravo on that, man. But I his stance on that shit really made me think about a lot of things. And recently, a friend of mine, I'm gonna cut out the part that I mentioned his name in this because I don't want to draw attention to this for him. Um,
Always.
he sent me a video showing me a clip of. Well, first, have you watched Aliens?
I have.
Have you played Halo 1?
Um, a few missions.
A few missions. Okay, specifically, we're going to talk about like the very beginning of Halo 1 then.
Then
So,
yeah.
huh?
Then
Yeah.
yeah, I play those.
Okay, so do you remember the original ship that was in Halo 1, what it looked like?
Sort of.
It was actually a one for one remake of uh the ship that was in Aliens, believe it or not.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, would you consider that a ripoff or inspiration since paying homage?
Oh. Now that's a topic. Okay. One
Because
for
my
one,
friend, about one for one, yeah.
just one for one, not even just it's just got the same layout. It
It
just
doesn't have the
blatantly
same layout, but the outside looks the same.
okay.
The
Then
exterior looks the same.
then yeah, rip off probably. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but
Um,
I wouldn't say it makes the movie necessarily get damaged by it. The quality of the movie objectively could be the same, but you could say the creativeness of the artist definitely is a bit lackluster because of it.
okay. How about, do you remember Sergeant Johnson from Halo?
Yes,
Do you remember the Sergeant from Aliens?
yes.
Would you consider those two ripoffs?
For those, no. So with that, I think we get into sort of like character cliches. And that
Yeah,
one is
exactly.
very much like Sergeant Johnson. He's not just a completely, original character. He's inspired from obvious, real life, instances of like a drill
Yeah,
sergeant practically.
yeah,
So we get
exactly.
to the situation of what is what actually is original and what isn't, which is quite the
Yeah.
thinker.
That's why I've been trying to bring up to my friend, but he's determined that Bungie ripped off fucking aliens and Starship Troopers. He thinks he ripped them off too, but that's a whole different thing. I was just kind of curious on your take on that. But to bring this back around to James Mangold, um, obviously made Logan, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He's also making Indiana Jones 5. Uh, Have you seen the trailer for that?
I have.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That does
I
look so.
am I you know, like I said earlier, I was laughing when watching The Last Jedi on how bad it was. I now know how those people felt when watching that movie because I feel like I'm gonna recreate their experience watching Indiana Jones because I
Yeah,
really like Indiana Jones. I really do. It's a fucking great franchise, except for the fourth one. We don't talk about that
yeah, I know.
one. um, which one do you think is the best one?
First one.
Really? You know, a
Good.
lot of people say that. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I
Yeah,
think
the first one was pretty good.
for me, what I'd really like about it, the series in general, is this sort of, well, besides a certain one, is the sort of dynamic between religion and the sort of science fiction alien stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think balancing it out there makes it very interesting. Where you can be like, okay, well, yeah, this is plausible to an extent, and not like fantasy, crazy magic stuff. But I think with definitely how it seems like it gets going, it's definitely not gonna stay the course of, or rather go back to what it was in its roots.
Well, apparently the script got leaked, and people have been telling me what happens, and I'm just like, I really hope that's not true. Like, I'm not gonna judge it off of that, but I'm really hoping that's not the case. Cause, holy fuck.
What is it? We can cut this out of the video if it's a huge spoiler.
No, no, I won't cut it out. But basically, what the leaks told is that it's gonna deal with time traveling, and
Ah,
there's the lady. She, believe it or not, the lady, the dark-haired lady in the trailer, is played by that one robot from Solo, if you remember that.
mm,
Um, Played by the same lady, and apparently she is Indiana Jones's godfather or some shit like that. And they're gonna do time traveling, and they're gonna erase Indiana Jones from time. That's apparently what the plot is going to be. That's why you see CGI shots of Indiana Jones from like, Raiders time. Like I hope that's not true. That sounds super absurd, but I know something like that might happen because it's Disney.
I
So
mean, hey, time travel. When is it ever cause issues?
exactly, right? Time traveling's never ever caused issues in movies. It's like movies don't learn from Back to the Future at all on how to do time travel.
You know, like for me, time travel, like it is it's a thorn. It's like it's a rose with thorns, all that jazz. It's very very hard to use, right?
There's
Uh,
two ways to do time traveling. Either do it the Steven Spielberg way, right? Or Robert Zemeckis. Is it Robert Zemeckis? He was the
yeah.
writer. Yeah. Either go the Robert Zemeckis route, or go the oh, what was that movie called? I'm blanking on it. I almost want to say it's called Zoomers, but I know it's not called Zoomers.
Looper?
Huh?
Is it a looper?
Oh God, no, no, not Looper.
Okay. Okay. I just had to
No.
make sure.
Oh God, no.
Make sure. I was going to say, hold the
Fuck. Here,
phone.
I'm trying to remember here. Let me look it up. Time travel movies. I'm trying to remember what was the name of it. Interstellar? No, it wasn't Interstellar. The Tomorrow War? Oh God, no. Uh, Primer. That's it. Primer. I'm thinking of Primer. Yeah, Primer. You probably never seen Primer, huh?
No, haven't.
That's a movie you're gonna have to see 5 times to understand.
Well,
It's
well, at least you can understand it.
yeah, yeah. Like there's two ways to do fucking uh time travel. Rocket Zemeckis or Primer route. And Primer route takes a long fucking time to do because that movie, holy shit. Like it bring you, like I said, you're gonna need like a fucking God. Oh my God, I'm getting my degrees mixed up right now. It's not PhD, that's doctor. What's the degree for like science? Fuck. Can't think
Uh,
of it.
not a
I feel like an idiot blanking on this right now. What is it called?
um
S-
doctorate.
No, that's for doctors,
It
isn't it?
sounds like it's for doctors, but it's actually not. Doctorate.
Is it?
Um, I
PhD's doctor, I know that.
hmm.
My God, I feel like an idiot. No, no.
You can get, for example, like a doctorate in political science. So it's not necessarily for doctors. So maybe I don't
Maybe
know.
I don't know. Anyways, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that movie is insane. Um, I
Hmm.
don't know. I like movies and shows that are like really make me think. That's why I like Severance. You gotta watch Severance. You will watch it with a friend too, because you and your friend will pause every moment and having a fascinating conversation about fucking human trafficking without knowing it.
Okay.
It's a really good fucking show. I could tell you the premise, and then off of that premise, you'll be like, "That sounds really fucking interesting," because it's
What's the
really good.
premise?
So basically, the premise is about a company, right? A working office building, and the people that work there, go up an elevator, and they have no memory of being at work until the job's done and they go back down the elevator is when their memory comes back. So when they're up in the elevator and they're at work, they're a completely different human, and the person inside doesn't know about the outside at all. Only knows about the inside the walls of the building.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can already see the issues, the moral implications of certain things.
Yes. Yes. And that show dives into that. It's like what if there was a world, our world, someone did this. How would everyone react? And that's exactly the show. Like
Hmm.
you get different perspectives from every single side. It's super interesting. It's a really fucking good show. And
Oh.
not a lot of people talk about it or know about it, and it's sad.
What what's the not Michael Bay? What's the Christopher Nolan? What's his recent movie that like was time travel related? I forget
Tenet?
the name. Tenet. That is a
Yeah.
movie that you can watch 5 times and you will understand less because it makes no sense.
Well, I
What?
mean, it's Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, but I mean, Christopher Nolan. He's a very good plot guy. He's just not a good character guy. I think. Like I think
Um, I don't know. I mean, plot maybe. The only sound movie I would say he made was a movie that really was actually fucking fascinating, and I had to watch it again. Was fuck, what was it? I'm blanking on. I'm gonna look up his filmography. What's the name of the movie I'm thinking of right now? The Prestige. That's it. Yeah, that
oh,
movie threw me for a fucking loop. I was like, holy shit, that was fucking good. But
that is a movie I need to watch. Every single person I know who has watched it recommends it.
dude, that movie's fucking. If you want to see an actually good Christopher Nolan movie, watch that. Dark Knight
Oh,
is another one that's like, I don't know. A lot of people like Dark Knight, and I don't know. That's
well,
another hot take for me.
well, with Dark Knight. So I have a bit of a hot take with it. So I think that like the plot of all of them is okay-ish, pretty good in some points, except the third one where they like lock all of the police in the sewers. That's just nonsense.
No, yeah,
But
yeah, that was stupid.
the big issue with them is the characters and so Bruce is fine. He's okay. Alfred's good, but beyond them, it's a lot of issues. No one went ahead and watched the first and second one and said, "Oh, geez, I don't even remember her name." The love interest for Bruce in the first and second, who's like the date of
Rachel.
Holly. Rachel, yeah.
Rachel.
No one at all watched the movies to like watch Rachel and her dynamics with Bruce or anything like that. And that's something that I think almost any writer or director can handle pretty easily, just to hit like a love interest and the main character have a connection of some sort where you are interested in what their dynamic. Any director or writer can do that, except Nolan. Nolan's pretty okay with plot and like just in terms of like just in terms of directing, because he's like super big into practical effects. Very interesting, very cool looking. But characters is the big issue.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? This is another interesting conversation. Who is your favorite director?
Ooh, um,
Director and writer. Let me put it that way. Director slash writer.
that's a hard one because just there's been so many bad things lately that it's all the name, all the slots in my brain I can put names in are just full of like horrible folks. There's one
I
this
don't
one
blame you.
fellow. There's one guy. I don't even remember his name. He did the Harry Potter series, which I thought was like pretty good, pretty good. I
Really,
don't
Harry
remember his
Potter,
name
huh?
though. Yeah, I think it's pretty okay. Honestly, solid set of movies. Um, but the third movie was by a director who's a horror director, and with him, he likes he likes no cut shots a lot. So a lot of his scenes, you will follow the characters as they walk around certain areas. Like in one scene, there's a character who's basically gone out of jail, and he's supposed to be a threat to the main character. So as a father figure, sort of the main character, grabs the main character and walks him around this sort of tavern and says like, "Hey, you need to not worry about this guy. He's a huge issue." He whispers to him and whatnot. While that's happening, you can see the cameras go through, and you can see just slight images of like a wanted poster of the criminal who's escaped appear and then disappear over and over again, and it's just
Hmm.
really a great scene. He does that a lot in the film.
Interesting.
What would be yours? Your favorite director or writer?
Quentin Tarantino, all the way.
Okay, jeez. Okay, you didn't have to. You didn't have to just completely fool on my answer like that. Jeez. Okay,
Fucking
that's what I was
Quentin
supposed to.
Tarantino, all the way.
Jeez. Yeah. No. Great director. Great.
He
Great.
he's
Great. Great writer
he's
too.
an example of fucking fabulous director, writer, horrible human being in real life.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
And that's a moment of separating a writer from their work, you know? And
Hmm.
it's like
Like
he's so fucking talented. He's such a
like
good guy. So good.
there's one actor. What's his name? He's the guy who is the Mandalorian, and he plays
Oh, uh
Quentin Martell.
Pedro
Pedro
Pascal.
Pascal. Yeah, he's really talented. He's really talented in person. Like in real life, his Twitter and whatnot. No, no, I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. No, but he's a great actor who's being extremely unutilized because they're shoving him to roles that he's constantly done, like with
Yeah.
with the Last of Us series, especially.
The only time I've liked him, I haven't seen a lot of things he's in. I've only saw The Mandalorian and I was like, dude, this guy's like a fucking wet blanket. Um, but okay, I'm gonna tell you a little secret. I have a man crush on Nick Cage, okay? I love my Nick Cage. I've seen literally everything he's been in. Even things that people have never seen him in, I've seen him in. Okay? I love Nick Cage. And he recently did that movie with Pedro in it. And it was like that's the only movie I somewhat enjoyed him in because Nick Cage was there.
with Pascal, he's really good. He's really good at character work and immersing himself into the character. Like, I don't know if you watched Game of Thrones, but he played a character in that, which is he did it perfectly, like through and through, like right off the page of the book. He's probably one of the best actors in Game of Thrones, especially playing a specific character. And I think he was in Narcos. He was good there too. Really good, right? A really good actor, but yeah, in person, not so much. Um,
Yeah. Nick Cage, on the other hand,
yeah, no, Nick Cage. Oh
fa-
yeah, really good.
fascinating motherfucker.
Yeah. Oh, another situation too is what's his name? Oh, geez, I don't know. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name. He played Billy Madison. Oh, what's his name? Oh,
Oh, Adam Sandler.
Adam Sandler. Yeah,
Oh
as an
God.
actor, uh,
He
okay. For his first part is okay, but as a person, jeez, jeez.
well, Adam Sandler. He's strange, right? Because
Mhm,
that's another actor that I've watched almost all the movies he's in. Not for enjoyment, of course. Well, I
mhm,
mean, I do like some of his movies, but actually two of them, two movies of his, and I don't know. He's he's a good
mhm,
actor for sure. Yeah, I mean, when he was in what was it, Uncut Gems, he was genuinely really good in that.
mhm.
Like, goddamn, look at the talent on this guy. But I don't know, that guy, he's just in garbage lately. Unless if
Yeah.
it's like an indie studio picking him up. He's not Nick Cage where he could be in anything, you know? Like,
Mhm. In person, the good thing about Adam Sandler is he's always stuff he does to benefit those who like he knows and those he cares about, and even his community. So like, I was in even in up in Massachusetts at one point in the states with him, pretty much making like two movies at the same time, all in his own town, the town that he grew up in. So like after he got big, he got a huge amount of money. He was like, okay, I'm just going to showcase this town of mine, and that I just thought was just really genuine, really just overall just
oh yeah.
very respectable.
I also know that he fucking Grown Ups 2 is the bit. Oh no, not Grown Ups 2. Was it Grown Ups 2? No, no, no. Grown Ups 2 is awful, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. Which one was the one that he played a chick?
Um,
Not Nancy, little Nancy, the other one. Jack and Jill, that was it.
Jack, yeah,
That one was just a fucking cruise for his family.
yeah,
Like, he just went
that
on a cruise, and we watched him on his cruise. That's all that was.
yeah.
Uh,
Like
yeah.
Grown Ups One was slightly like that too. Like it was
Oh yeah.
literally just his friends just going to like a plate like places and just like screwing around. Like he went to a lake that like literally that uncle of mine literally lives next to. He lives next to the lake that they did like a whole thing at.
Oh wow.
And yeah, like if you go over to Massachusetts in that town, there's like it's a 50-50 chance he's doing something there. Like it's really nice.
And Nick Cage, I mean not Nick Cage, Adam Sandler is someone else. You know what? Speaking of like funny actors like Nick Cage, who is super entertaining all the time. Do you know our Lord and Savior Neil Breen?
Neil Breen. Oh, jeez. I hope I'm not just completely making myself like look like I'm just unintelligible
Oh my
with
God, we
actors.
need
But
we
Neil
he's not
Breen.
he's not just an actor. He's an actor, director, producer, writer, everything.
What did
You
he make?
sir, he made Fateful Findings. He made I Am Here Now. He made Twisted Pair. He's coming out with a new film next year, which I'm super hyped for.
I haven't heard of a single movie that you just referenced.
You know what? I need to take you to a journey of Neil Breen, my friend. Do you want to open your third eye?
Uh, why not? I guess.
You want your third eye to be open?
Maybe if I can see better.
Just mind you, once you see this, you will never be the same person again. I want you to know that.
I mean, go for it.
Here, wait. Let me see if I can find it because I believe his movies are on YouTube, which is very convenient. Let's see. Should we do Fateful Findings? Yep, there it is. Fateful Findings. I can show you the best scenes, but you know, you have to have the build up to the best scenes, of course, you know?
I see. I have a feeling he's not as good as you might be raving him as him about. I don't know.
Oh
I
no,
feel like I might be.
this man's a masterpiece of writing. You don't you don't get it, okay?